Video game adaptations. You know the spiel, so I'll keep this concise. Starting in the 90s but really picking up steam in the early 2000s, studios began churning out movies based on popular video game IPs. Mario, Doom, Street Fighter, Prince of Persia, and of course, Final Fantasy. Now personally, Advent Children isn't really my thing. Whether it's undoing Cloud's character arc, a contrived Sephiroth revival, and the laughable English dialogue translation, it all makes it really hard to enjoy this film unironically.
Dilly dally, shilly shally. Dilly dally, shilly shally.
Who wrote this?
I think one of the main problems though is just the fact that it's a sequel. Final Fantasy VII wraps up with a grand sense of finality. Furthering the story past them saving the planet inherently makes the stakes feel lower with whatever journey continues after. So this got me thinking, if I hypothetically had full creative control, what kind of Final Fantasy VII movie would I make? Let's put my money where my mouth is, because I don't think this franchise is unadaptable. Most story-driven games make for pretty darn good shows and movies if handled with proper care. And if a sequel won't work, then a prequel just might. I love the idea of a grounded FF7 prequel film, giving us a look into the past of a party member other than Cloud by characterizing them with an origin story and reinforcing it with themes that will evolve into those of the original game. As for the time frame, I knew straight away. The 5-year window between the Nibelheim incident and the first bombing mission is rather intriguing considering both our spiky-haired soldier boys were stuck in test tubes for the majority of that gap. Though there was one other witness there who was escorted out by someone other than a Shinra scientist. Someone who actually ends up being one of the most plot-relevant characters of the main game. While I was doing research for my last video, I found myself on the FF7 wiki page to fact-check some lore. As I reviewed Tifa's page, I noticed paragraph after paragraph of backstory of her arriving in Midgar, paying off a medical debt, meeting Jesse, buying Seventh Heaven, with way too many intricate details for this to just have come from some throwaway passage in the Ultimania. Next thing you know, I'm ordering a little book called Traces of Two Pasts. For those who aren't in the know, this book tells the tales of Tifa and Aerith prior to their meeting in Midgar. It's written by Kazushige Nojima, who has been a writer on basically everything FF7 related, along with credits on 8, 10, 10-2, 13, 15, and loads more spin-offs. Basically, he's an OG. For the purposes of this video, I'll just be focusing on Tifa's half, but I'd love to talk about Aerith's story in the future if y'all want to see it. This video will be divided into 3 chapters. Chapter 1 being the coverage of this book, Chapter 2 being the changes between mediums as we adapt this novel to a hypothetical film, and Chapter 3, where I'll share with you the 97-page screenplay I wrote for this video. So let's flip to the first page of Chapter 1 with a look at our source material. Now, this thing's not going to win any awards, but I do really love it for what it is. I have plenty of critiques I'd like to alter when adapting, but for now, let me get my praise out of the way first. This book's time frame actually extends far past what I anticipated. The first third or so is all about her days as a young girl in Nibelheim. These pages both recontextualize a lot of key moments we already knew about, like how we get her entire internal monologue prior to and during the water tower sequence, and they authentically convey believable maturation among her and all her friends. What I'm really thrilled got a spotlight were her days as a budding martial artist. Everything with Zangan, except his admittedly pretty creepy first encounter, is a total treat. A main theme of this book is not letting others write your life for you, and martial arts serve a genuine story role beyond just self-defense. It's something for her to hone and practice during long days in a sleepy town where all her friends have gone off to the city. It's something that begins to give her agency, discipline, and responsibility. It's part of her first job as she runs a calisthenics club for the elderly of the village. Point is, as someone who grew up doing Taekwondo and got my black belt at a similar age to when Tifa started recognizing the beauty of the sport, I was so stoked to see Nojima make the effort to write her expertise to be far more than just a play style. As for the bulk of the story, which happens post-Nibelheim, I really appreciate just how slow and arduous her recovery is portrayed as. It not only cements the danger of the slums, but anchors the story with this human vulnerability. Thus, every accomplishment and friendship she makes is that much more valuable. Speaking of which, all the returning characters are handled pretty darn well. We actually get to see Marl being the guiding grandmother she claims to be in Remake. Tifa has some amazing interactions with Barrett that are actually referenced in Rebirth dialogue. Marlene still packs an adorable yet tear-jerking punch, and Jessie... Okay, here's the deal with Jessie. If you went on the gold saucer date with Tifa in Rebirth, then you know she has this lovely monologue about Jessie's legacy and what a great friend she was. I remember seeing this for the first time thinking, damn, I can't remember a single time these two girls have interacted. And if you go back through the remake cutscenes, sure, they exchange a word here and there, but nothing substantial. So going into this book, Tifa's relationship with Jessie was genuinely at the top of my list of things that I wanted to see. And I mean, I'd say it delivered to an extent. I definitely have my qualms with how it's handled, but for now, just know I'm grateful it even got page space at all. All of Tifa's relationships build to her decision to buy Seventh Heaven, and I think this was executed with a lot of care. Nojima does a superb job establishing incentives other than it just being a business. It's an escape from her life of debt for 4 years, it's shelter for Barrett and Marlene, and it's a base for a cause she believes in. Reading this book genuinely makes the story beats within the main time frame hit 10 times harder. We can obviously sympathize with her dejection after the bar was crushed without the extra context, but add the knowledge that she earned it by herself working 78-hour work weeks for 4 years. After thinking she'd finally built herself up since Nibelheim, the same corporation that ruined her life 5 years ago comes back and takes everything from her again. What's left to stop the waterworks? Now, everything I just listed are things I'm going to do my best to preserve while adapting. But like any book, this one ain't perfect, so here are my criticisms that I'll attempt to fix in the screenplay. There are a handful of contrivances I'd like to remove. These are pretty minor and easily rewritable, but they definitely broke my immersion a few times. For example, towards the end of the story, the previous bar owner, Monty, dies of an illness. The timing is way too convenient, and it's clear that this only happens for the sake of plot. I'm also not really a fan of how Tifa's introduced to planetology. On her 17th birthday, Jessie takes her to a movie night where they put on a documentary. To me, this feels like an incredibly lazy and heavy-handed way to deliver your message. Literally just having some planetologists spoon-feed the beliefs to a screen. It would have been far more organic to develop her faith in planetology via authentic conversations with Jessie, as she gradually realizes how those beliefs benefit her personally, rather than just what some scientist lectures her with. Speaking of which, Tifa and Jessie's friendship definitely feels pretty rushed. I kid you not. The first night they speak to each other at all, Tifa tells her her entire life story. I really like the idea that Tifa finds someone to vent her trauma to, and that person is Jessie. This moment almost mirrors that scene with her and Cloud after the plate falls. Again, it's like poetry, they rhyme. But holy crap, does this happen way too damn early. Overall, I do think these girls' friendship deserves more screen time, because when you take a step back and give it a good think, Jessie was really one of the most important people to Tifa. She was the first sister figure she ever had, as there weren't any other girls in Nibelheim her age. Not only was Jessie her best friend when she had nobody, but they grew together during some of the most pivotal years of their life. The transition from adolescence to adulthood. Think about the time frame as well. The main FF7 party knows Aerith for not even a month, and we saw how hard her death hit Tifa. So imagine what Tifa was going through after her best friend of 5 years passed thanks to, once again, Shinra. I just think that when you look at the big picture, it's obvious that highlighting Jessie here should be a priority. Next, I feel like this book has a bit of an issue in the rising action department. Since it's covering such a large time frame, it's tricky to maintain a strong sense of narrative tension and progression page after page, especially when Tifa's life of non-stop work becomes as mundane and exhausting as it inevitably is. I believe this is why the final act feels like it comes out of nowhere, or final event I should say. There's not much of a final hurdle for Tifa to overcome to showcase all the lessons she's learned. There also isn't any falling action at all, which not all stories have to have obviously, but given that this is a prequel and the ending's already feeling abrupt, I think we could more than use some. Though these issues all add up, I think they're mostly mild individually and likely won't be the cause of someone disliking this novel. That is, except for one. Rakesh. Rakesh is the son of Tifa's doctor, Damini, who performed the skin graft surgery on her chest. He helps her with physical therapy for a while and gets her settled into the slums. Nice guy, right? Well, turns out Rakesh is literally a Pixar-style twist villain. Now, I don't have anything against twist villains in general. I mean, Get Out is one of my favorite movies ever. But they are so darn easy to mess up, and he just fails at being a basic antagonist as well, so let's start there. He's not threatening in the slightest. If anything, he's just mildly irritating, getting caught up in his own lies and saying some pretty insensitive stuff. As for motivation, I don't want to spoil the twist, but for now I'll just say he's a rapacious, controlling misogynist. Not crazy complicated, but we can work with that. But what really causes my conniption is that he has a connection to Tifa that just goes wildly underutilized. Rakesh is actually a former student of Zangan himself. He and Tifa have a few conversations about their old master, but it never really goes anywhere. Which blows my mind, because imagine having an antagonistic martial artist in your martial artist origin story and not having them spar even once. Okay. So now we have our list of things to fix. As for the contrivances, they're either easy to remove or I've already articulated my solution. Regarding the final act and lack of falling action, I'll be writing a more meaty climax as well as a few scenes for closure afterwards. That leaves us with Jesse, Rakesh, and rising action to deal with, all which kinda go hand in hand. The main thing we need to focus on here is creating a push and pull dynamic between Jesse and Rakesh. Let me explain. A great way to write supporting characters is for the protagonist to have a positive and negative influence whispering in each ear. These characters really act as the message and anti-message, which naturally facilitates exploration of your themes as well as swelling narrative tension. The protagonist sways between the ideologies at first, and depending on your story, they gradually become more attracted to side A or B. The most base level example of this is Star Wars. Luke has Obi-Wan pulling him by one arm and his father yanking the other. Though he shows traits of the Sith multiple times, he eventually rejects the dark side entirely. Until 2017 at least. Simple, but effective. There's evidently plenty of room to get nuanced though. I recently read Rebecca Yaros's Fourth Wing, and by recent I mean July, so that upload date's gonna say a lot about how slow I edit. But this book nails its trust dynamics between its supporting characters, as there's this non-stop shifting in Violet's head between whose advice she should follow. Does she stay loyal to the childhood friend who sticks to the rules even if it meant her death? Or the guy who's threatened to kill her but actually teaches her how to survive as a writer? This is so intriguing for the reader as you're constantly making them solve this puzzle alongside her. They are forced to actively engage with your story rather than just passively absorbing information. This is what I want to accomplish in regards to Jesse and Rakesh and their relationship with Tifa. To a certain degree, of course. Jesse is Tifa's calling to planetology and avalanche, and Rakesh wants to strip all agency from her. There are seeds of this in the book, but I'd like to double down. I believe the number one flaw in Rakesh's character writing is that he's not exactly an active antagonist. He is passively evil. He commits to a pretty nasty choice at the beginning of the book, and he's just sort of quietly ruining Tifa's life as the story goes on. At no point does he do anything to raise the stakes as we get closer to the reveal. I reckon it's still possible to obfuscate his intentions while adding foreshadowing to make that twist all the more satisfying, as well as actually getting you to fear whatever dastardly plan you know he's cooking up, because in this, there's nothing in the oven. I do believe fixing Rakesh will remedy our rising action for the most part, but there is still one more aspect we've got to discuss. Pacing is probably the trickiest part of adapting literature to film because books are just inherently longer experiences. So writers are faced with this nearly impossible task of condensing a story into a shorter medium while trying to expand and improve on that story. After all, I want fans of this book who clicked on my video to see me contribute something to the tale. What's the point of me even writing the screenplay if I'm just gonna copy down things word for word, scene for scene, cutting out what doesn't fit? So I'm gonna have to make some tough creative decisions. One, I will be writing every scene from the ground up, and two, if I want to add everything I've suggested, I've got to make room for it. That being said, this screenplay will not include Tifa's childhood. While I adore these pages, I don't think they'd work in the film. Her time training with Zangan will be missed, but we'll still get our martial arts fix via the Rakesh rewrite. But 5 years is still a damn long time to cover. Books have an easier time dealing with it because they can sum up chunks of time with just a passage. If I were to replicate that in a screenplay, I'd have to write in a few dozen montages. and I don't want to write Rocky 4. Frankly, no screenwriter should ever want to write Rocky 4. My solution to this might be contentious, but I'm writing in a time skip at the midpoint. Let me explain, because time skips absolutely rock if you don't abuse them too much. The biggest thing they allow writers to accomplish is to narrow their focus. See, when working with large time frames like this, selecting individual windows to marinate in are really the only way you can do a grounded deep dive without the plot feeling like it's moving a million miles an hour. Take Moonlight, for example. This movie uses each act to showcase Chiron at a different age. Because it's so selective in what moments of his life we witness, the picture is concise yet unrushed. This accomplishes a lot. It cuts out fluff, it makes character growth more believable, and it gets the audience to keep asking both what happens next as well as what happened, as they try to piece together the gaps in the timeline. Time skips have the trick to making a story with a wide temporal scope feel like a deep well rather than a shallow ocean. With all that covered, I think it's time we get to the reading. Okay, hello everyone. Welcome back to the Tifa Lockhart Appreciation Corner, or the TLAC for short. As you can see, I have our manuscript with us today. And a big shout out to Jake Custodio and Treliata for this amazing cover art. I'm really stoked about it. I will read the most important scenes and synopsize the rest for everyone's understanding. So feel free to grab a snack, maybe a drink, and I think it's time we stop dilly-dallying and start shilly-shallying. We begin our tale in the Lockhart residence at night. Tifa Lockhart, 15, rushes down the stairs of her childhood home. The interior of the small yet cozy house begins to collapse under the roaring flames searing their way through the windows. Tifa bursts through the front door, witnessing the entirety of her hometown set ablaze. She wears a look of panic in between coughing fits. Dad! Zongon! Anyone! Answering her call is Brian Lockhart, Tifa's father. He's covered head to toe in soot. What are you still doing here? Brian grabs Tifa's hand and drags her away from the house. Come on, hurry this way. The two sprint out the town gate and towards a nearby waterfall. What happened? Sephiroth happened. What? I'll tell you in a bit, but don't slow up now. As we reach the waterfall at night, Tifa hears a loud crash in the distance. The water tower at the center of the town square has fallen. Tifa watches in horror as her father tries to grab her attention. Tifa's eyes stay glued to the town. Brian grabs her shoulders. Tifa, are you injured? Still looking at the town. Sephiroth did this? Brian's demeanor shifts from one of frantic urgency to a festering rage bubbling beneath the surface. He did. Why? That's what I'm going to find out. Tifa now stares right into her father's eyes. What are you talking about? Where's everyone else? Brian now breaks her gaze, looking down at his reflection in the lake at the foot of the waterfall. Answer me! Tifa, I need you to stay right here. What? Sephiroth was seen headed for the mountain. I'm gonna have a word with him. Have you gone insane? Not as insane as him. Dad, listen to yourself. This is the Sephiroth. I promise I'll keep my distance, but we deserve an explanation. Can I trust that you'll still be here when I return? Tifa clenches her fist, her brow furrowing with frustration. You better return. With a kind nod, Brian runs off to the mountain trail. Tifa debates following, but is promptly interrupted by another crash from the town. Her head jolts in the direction of the burning ruins to see the roof of her house flatten the structure into a pathetic pile of debris. She stands frozen with tears streaking down her face. Cut to black, and we have our title card, simply saying Lockhart. Now we get to the main timeline, and we meet Rakesh as he's helping Tifa with her physical therapy. She's seen them together working with the resistance band. They're very jovial. You can tell they've sort of become friends. We see a scene in the examination room where Damini is showing Tifa the skin grafts and her progress as she's grown in the past 2 months. All these scenes that get you to really appreciate Rakesh and Damini and how they have helped Tifa recover from this injury. Yet in the back of their mind, there's this worry of Tifa's that constantly keeps her perturbed, and that's her debt. She's asking Damini, like, how much does all this cost? And she always just brushes it off. She's like, it's okay, don't worry about it. We'll tell you the logistics later, but for now, let's just celebrate your recovery, right? So we have a little tour with Rakesh. Rakesh goes around the slums. They work their way through these dense crowds. We notice the big steel plate on the sky. This is probably the first time Tifa's ever really seen it. And it's her introduction to the slums, the next 5 years of her life. So eventually, they make it to an abandoned railcar lot. It's afternoon by this point. Rakesh says, I think I've withheld the details of your job for maybe a tad too long now. Rakesh opens opens a large sliding door of one of the rail cars. It's revealed to have been repurposed as a kitchen. 3 women vigorously work away, not paying Tifa or Rakesh any attention. What will I be cooking? Steamed buns, soft on the outside, sweet and savory on the inside. They're a sector favorite. But don't worry, you won't have to deal with the actual cooking portion. Tifa tilts her head in confusion. Rakesh gestures for her to follow him. He leads her to an adjacent rail car. This guy right here is gonna be your best friend. Rakesh opens the door to reveal a small desk and 2 waist-high carts. Your office/warehouse. Each day a cart will be filled with ingredients by those lovely ladies next door. Your job is to take that sucker over to our food stand and sell as many buns as you can. Tifa anxiously gulps. You sure I'm up for this? No doubt. Pops is a great teacher. He'll be thrilled to finally have another partner. Not the steamed bun stand. Tifa and Rakesh stand in front of a food stand manned by Pops, an older gentleman of short stature. He's slicing open buns for the next customers. Hey Pops, here's your future partner in crime. My name is Tifa. It's so lovely to meet you. Pops indiscreetly scans Tifa's body up and down. She'll do. Tifa looks at Rakesh aghast. Rakesh wears an apologetic frown, one that implies Pop's behavior is entirely expected. Now, Tifa and Rakesh walk down an alley featuring a long row of old cargo containers. They're constructed mostly of wood, with a sturdy iron frame fortifying each. Are you sure we're going the right way? Yep, actually, we've just arrived. Rakesh points to a nearby cargo container. Home sweet home. Tifa quickly covers her dropped jaw with a hand. Fair enough. Rakesh unlocks the padlock sealing the carved-out door, opening it to showcase the container's simple interior. A single naked light bulb illuminates the space. A thin mattress sits flat on the floor, with a cheap blanket and cushion sitting unmade atop it. The only real furniture the box can fit is a compact desk and chair sitting next to the bed. Tifa and Rakesh squeeze into the unit together. Alrighty, I think the room's pretty self-explanatory. You're looking at 15 gil a day, electricity included. Any questions? Where do I use the restrooms? Public toilets and showers are down at the other end of the row. You can't miss them. Tifa swallows. Thanks, Rakesh. Rakesh ponders the response for a moment. I can't tell if you're being sarcastic or not. No, I mean it. This will do just fine. Trust me. You don't have to sugarcoat it. I'm not. I'll learn to hack it like everyone else. Tifa's reassurance makes Rakesh smile. That's my girl. Tifa and Rakesh exit the container. Thanks again for being so compliant, Tifa. You know we wish we could just waive everything, but money's tight for us too, and we really can't risk it right now. Nonsense. You've done more than enough. I don't want to be treated differently than any other patient. Tifa responds with a comforting smile, then sticks her hand out for a shake. Here's to paying off that procedure. Rakesh reciprocates her smile and meets her hand with his own. Here's to it. Tifa notices Rakesh's wrist is wrapped by a leather cord bracelet identical to her own. She keeps this observation to herself for now. Showing clear exhaustion, Tifa goes back inside and shuts the door behind her. She lies down on the mattress, face up at the dark ceiling of her container. Before her eyes have the chance to close, the image of her container ceiling is replaced with that of her childhood room in flames. She frantically jerks her head in every direction, only to see the walls caving in from every angle. Meanwhile, in the container, Tifa lies lost in the memory, beginning to hyperventilate. Now in the reactor, Dad! Tifa rushes into the room at the sight of her fallen father, blood soaking his abdomen. She grabs and shakes him in hopes of seeing a sign of life, but none appear. We cut back to the container as Tifa's breath accelerates. Cut back to Nibelheim. Tifa grabs a large sword covered in her father's blood, dragging into the falling room in rage. Now in the container, Tifa's breath moves to a pace she can no longer control. Cut back to the reactor. You monster! Tifa runs up a flight of stairs towards a tall and intimidating Sephiroth, his prominent silver hair measuring longer than Tifa's full height. Her downward strike is abruptly caught in his gloved palm. Sephiroth rapidly disarms her and uses the blade to counter with a direct strike across her chest. As the memory fades, Tifa gradually catches her speeding breath. Tears soak her face as she falls into a far from peaceful sleep. Fade to black. The next morning is her first day of work, and it is rough. Pops is far from a benevolent teacher. He is constantly breathing down her neck, criticizing her for every little issue she makes. He's very, very pedantic. In any bit of excitement, he just instantly chops down. By the end of the day, her self-esteem has hit the floor. She's being compared to his past partners. He was saying how one girl was able to hit 1,000 buns in a day, no sweat. She didn't even crack 250. That night, Rakesh approaches her, asks her how things went on her first day, and she can't really hide it, even though she tries to. Before they part ways, Tifa uses the moment to ask him about Zangan, and he does confirm that, you know, he was a student as well. They have a little story time. They talk about how they met Zangan, their memories of training with him, and Rakesh says, you know what, why don't we spar next Wednesday, because that's our only day off, you know, brush some of that rust off. And she is absolutely thrilled. I mean, it's like she finally has something to look forward to, right? She goes to bed. Next day, we're back at the bun stand. As Tifa works on a customer's bun a tad bit faster than she can handle. A man in his 30s or so waits for his order with a disturbing grin. He's got the full-on Joker smile. Tifa slips up and drops the unfinished bun at her feet. I'm sorry. I don't mind. Tifa gets back to work, completing the bun from scratch. Here you are, sir. Have a nice day. I can think of something that might be easier for you to hold on to. What? Something a little bit stiffer and a little less slippery. For now, and I'm sorry, I hate this guy as well. The customer wears a sinister smirk. A voice from behind the man quickly interjects. Wow, check out Mr. Wordsmith over here. The rest of the customers in line howl with laughter. Humiliated, the man storms away, throwing his bun to the ground in his conniption. Son of a beach! So there's gonna be profanity in this script that I don't personally swear, because when I was 13, I asked my mother when I was allowed to swear, and she said when I'm 35, so I'm not quite there yet. With the man out of line, the next customer and comedic voice is revealed to be a young woman named Jessie Raspberry. Let's go! 18. Her brunette hair held in a ponytail. She's holding a large picnic basket. Thanks for that, Jessie shrugs. He was holding up the line, not fair to the new girl on the block. I appreciate it. Sure. Anyway, can I get 22 steamed buns? Tifa's jaw drops. Jessie reacts with a hearty laugh. I'm ordering for friends. Come on. You think I could eat like that and look this good? Right away, ma'am. 30 minutes later, Tifa places the final bun in Jessie's basket and closes the lid. All done, ma'am. Thanks for ordering. Jessie takes the basket, then reaches out her hands. Call me Jessie. Tifa completes the handshake. I'm Tifa. Jessie starts walking away from the stand, still facing Tifa. You're adorable, Tifa. Stay safe out there. Jessie gives a salute wave, one which Tifa reciprocates. You too! Next scene, we have a little bit of a fight scene between Rakesh and Tifa. They're sparring, and for those who didn't grow up doing combat sports, the point of sparring isn't to beat the other person, it's to make each other better, so you're not actually trying to injure them. You want to make contact, right? So you get the practice, but you're not looking to do any actual damage. They're your friend, your partner. Tifa's clearly aware of this, and she's making a lot of contact, but she reels it in at the last second, so it's just a light tap. Rakesh seems to have a little bit of trouble with that as he slams his knee into her abdomen way harder than he should have, and she's on the ground. She's trying to get up, but she can't. So Rakesh is like, shoot, let's get you back to my mom's. So now then we have a scene outside the examination room right after Damini's done with Tifa. She gives her a bottle of pills. She's like, sorry for the hassle, but we'll just add this to your next installment, right? Tifa's like, thanks a ton. Rakesh and Tifa have a little conversation just about sparring. They're growing up. Tifa's very forgiving. We get this little insight into Rakesh's past and just him as a character and how he's sort of unable to drop the guard, and he feels like he's always fighting for his life, even though it's just practice. As that's just how the slums mold you. Despite what happens, they say, hey, let's try again next week. We'll get better. So Damini interrupts their conversation and she says, Tifa, I need you for something. Help me out. So they go down the hall towards another room, and Damini says, we have another patient who needs a procedure similar to yours, Tifa. You think we could help convince her to get it because she's not really cooperating? And Tifa's like, I don't know what I can do, but I'll try my best. And she's like, fantastic. So they go to the patient's room, and inside is Marl. She lies face down in a hospital bed with a gown that leaves her wounded back exposed. Blood-stained gauze to cover several long lacerations. Marl, this is Tifa. She's another recent patient of ours who went through a procedure you require. Oh, just stitch me up and let me go already. I don't want to be your guinea pig. We can assure you the method has proven itself effective. Tifa is living proof. It only hurt for the first week or so, right? Yeah, that sounds about right. Would you say you can now perform push-in motions without strain? For the most part. Damini walks over to Marl with a manila folder. She opens it to display Tifa's progress photos. And just look at how quickly the discoloration faded. Tifa winces at the idea of a stranger seeing her bare chest. Marl holds a similar aversion towards Damini's actions. Leave this poor girl out of your sales pitch. But Marl, why don't you leave us alone so she can actually speak her mind? Damini briefly pauses to think over the decision. Very well then. But I ask you do not discuss anything beyond the details of the procedure. We take patient confidentiality very seriously at this clinic. Tifa nods. Damini exits the room, flashing a woman's chest around like that. Who's she think she is? Marl looks over to see Tifa clearly uncomfortable. Sorry, hon. Just me and my big mouth. Don't mean to make this any harder for you. It's alright, really. So, what attacked you? Strayed too far from the slums, got jumped by a monster. What were you doing so far from home? Used to run a few apartments over in Sector 7, at least until Shinra rezoned and shoved me out. Tried searching for property elsewhere, but I guess life decided I hadn't suffered enough yet. I'm really sorry you had to go through that. Marl stares at Tifa with a puzzled look. Where are you from, Tifa? Not Midgar. That much is obvious. How come? Marl lets out a hearty laugh, injuring herself in the process. Are you okay? Marl fights a coughing fit, ignoring Tifa's questions. I wish your innocence had a place down here. Speaking of which, what brings you to the glamorous Sector 8 slums? Not exactly a tourist attraction. I think that falls under Dr. Orain's confidentiality policy. Alright, then tell me in your confidential voice. Marl wears a devious grin. Tifa chuckles, but then falls into an uncomfortable stutter. It's alright, dear. You can tell me I'm being nosy. No, it's okay. I just gotta find the words. It's all been a lot to process. Well, whenever you do, I'll be here, ready for your story. Tifa looks back up at Marl, pleasantly surprised. Damini announces her re-entry with a knock. Have we come to a conclusion? Ugh. Yeah, let's get this graft thing over with. Are you certain? No, so you better patch me up before I change my mind. Marl gives Tifa a wink, making her giggle. Next scene, we're back at the bun stand, and the breakfast rush has passed. Jessie approaches. Hey, Tiefs. She never calls her that, but I feel like she would give her a nickname. Tifa's head jolts in her direction, greeting her with a smile. Jessie! Tifa starts preparing a large batch of buns unprompted. Whoa, ease off the gas. I'm not here for a bite. Tifa gives her a confused look. I'm here to invite you to one. Oh, come on, what do you say we give you your first real meal of Sector 8? Looks at Pops. No offense. We? Me and my pals. They'll love you. You can finally meet that glutton I ordered for. Okay. Sorry, but I work 6 days a week. My hands are a bit full. Well, how about before you get on? Start at 6:30. Ouch. Jessie gives Pops a questioning stare. Alright, then let's do after. Off at 9:30. Ouch! Jessie looks back at Pops. He doesn't acknowledge either gaze. She looks back at Tifa, giving an animated shiver. Tifa laughs. Jessie then leans across the stand counter to whisper into Tifa's ear. Just call in sick then. Jessie steps back and starts walking away. Wait, where would we meet? That would ruin the surprise. Don't worry, I'll come to you. Jessie gives the same salute wave and leaves. I take it you're not going to be feeling too well tomorrow morning. Oh, of course not, sir. Don't be so coy. Work is my first priority, honest, sir. After a contemplative pause, Pop says, tell you what, break 500 buns today and I'll consider excusing whatever illness you catch tomorrow. Tifa is shocked, but gathers her composure as quickly as possible. Thank you very much, sir. I won't waste your graciousness. Yeah, sure. I'll believe it when I see it. The lunch rush starts. A daunting line forms at the steam bun stand. Tifa starts to prepare a bun with fire in her eyes. So the next day, Tifa hears a knock at her door and Jessie picks her up. And they go to the center district of the slums and we meet Biggs and Wedge. And I tried really hard to establish this like sibling dynamic between Jessie, Biggs, and Wedge. Like just the way they talk, the way they're jabbing, poking fun at each other, you can tell that they've known each other forever, which they really grew up together at the end of the day. Tifa almost feels like a little bit of, I guess, like a fourth wheel. She's like, I guess I got a lot catching up to do. But they go to a pizza parlor eventually, they have lunch together. They mention offhandedly that, oh man, Jessie's mom make the best pizza, you know, from chapter 4 of Remake. Jessie's like, yeah, still can't figure out the recipe. Marsh, Loosh, Black Millie, it's just gotta be one more thing. And then Tifa's like, Red Shelly maybe? And if you know, you know. So that's not canon, but I thought it was fun. Then we have a scene that evening, they're in the park chatting. Wedge is like, shoot, Mr. Smalls needs to be fed. I didn't leave out food for him. And Biggs is like, how many cats do you have, man? So he has to take Wedge back, which means Jessie and Tifa get a little scene one-on-one. When the guys are out of earshot, Jessie lets out an exaggerated exhale of relief. Tifa can't help but laugh. So what do you think of them? They're fun. That's generous. No, really, they seem like good guys. You're lucky to have them. Jessie is slightly taken aback. She pauses momentarily. Maybe. The girls sit in silence for a moment. You back at the stand tomorrow? Yeah. Geez, you're quite the busy bee, ain't you? Tifa shrugs. I do what I have to. Fair enough. A beat passes as Jessie and Tifa look up at the steel sky. The dim lamps flicker. Still, you must have some time to yourself. What do you do then? A small smile escapes Tifa. Well, I'm actually a martial artist. Jessie now looks at her jaw half dropped, half smiling. She then puts her hands up as if surrendering. Okay, remind me not to get on your bad side. Okay, I kid you not. This is not in the book. I just wrote this in for myself. Without fail, this happens every single time. Whenever there's like an icebreaker thing, you have to share a fun fact about yourself. I always say like, I have a black belt in Taekwondo. And everyone's like, okay, remind me not to make you mad. I'm like, what do you think I'm gonna do? I'm the guy who cries at the ending of Cars, okay? I'm not gonna do anything. I'm a freaking softie. Tifa shakes her head. I've never been a very violent person. You don't say. The art side was always more of a draw than the martial side. Oh yeah? It's all a dance when you really think about it. Precision is everything. If your planted foot's even a degree off, good luck kicking the opponent a foot taller than you. Jesse nods along. I don't know if I'm just disciplined or just stubborn, but it's satisfying. Just practicing a technique over and over until it's picture perfect. I'd kill to have that kind of skill down here, or eyes on the back of my head. It's really a toss-up. I'm not sure if I'd do much damage if it came down to it, though. Too nice for your own good? Tifa exhales a small laugh, then a soft sigh. She sits back and ponders. Word of advice, Tiefs? You can't give too much of a damn. That easy, huh? Jessie smiles and rolls her eyes. Think about it this way. Humans aren't as fragile as we make them out to be. Tifa leans in with a curious look. If we're acting out of line, sometimes we deserve what's coming to us. Besides, we're a whole lot more than flesh and bones. No punch could ever actually kill someone. What do you mean? I mean, no matter how bad the person is, the planet's gonna give them a second chance. Tifa pauses to think. You really think so? I really know so. Well, I'm like 99% there. Tifa responds with a nod, then looks back up at the steel sky. A flickering lamp goes out. Then another. Then another. Next day, we're back at the bun stand, and Pops is like, all of a sudden, he's very grumpy. And Tifa looks over to see where he's looking, and Jessie's coming over with a folding chair. And she sets herself up right next to Tifa behind the bun stand. And Pops is like, what the hell are you doing here? And she's like, I don't know, maybe I just like the view from here. Or maybe I'm just trying to make Tifa's 78-hour work week a little faster. Who can say? Tifa's thrilled that she's there, and they start chatting. And she's like, okay, Tifa, who are our regulars? And she just goes and lists people, and she sees in the crowd that she recognizes. Jessie recognizes all of them except for Rakesh, strangely. And speaking of Rakesh, we have another sparring scene with him. Woohoo! So Tifa and Rakesh enter the training grounds once again. So how's the job going? Any better? Maybe. The hours are feeling shorter, but it's still a journey getting to Wednesday. Well, you've made it, and I don't want to waste a minute of it. Let's get started with book 1, yeah? Actually, I was thinking we could skip warm-ups today. What? Why? Well, think about it. Do you ever get the chance to stretch before an actual fight? We gotta be prepared for the worst. Tifa pauses to contemplate. I guess so. Tifa and Rakesh start walking over to the positions and touch gloves. Before they can look each other in the eyes, Tifa's distracted by a notice board beyond the fences of the clinic. Hold on. What's up? Tifa moves closer, lacing her fingers around the steel fence crisscrosses. Several request papers paint the corkboard, but a single flyer looks noticeably out of place. In large, bold text, it states, "Stop Shinra, save Gaia." Rakesh follows Tifa and quickly recognizes what caught her eye. Looks like the planetology cultists are back at it. Cultists? Or terrorists, depending on who you ask. Tifa swallows hard. Next, we have a scene with Marl as Tifa visits her in her examination room. They start to become friends. One thing to note is that Tifa now has a finger splint on after her sparring session, something that Marl takes note of, and she just brushes it off like, oh, it's not a big deal, don't worry about it. Marl talks about her days in the neighborhood watch and her sort of doubts about planetology, and it makes Tifa very distraught, because she's trying to cling on to some sort of hope that she'll see her parents again, right? Then she goes back to her container, and in the little slit in her door, she notices a note, and it just says 6 p.m., be ready. Obviously, this note's from a certain Jessie Raspberry, so we have a scene at Jessie's house at night. Jessie and Tifa stand outside a humble home. The painted walls are chipped and worn, but it's at least 6 times bigger than Tifa's container. This is me. Jessie unlocks her door and the girls both enter. The home is equipped with a bed, dresser, couch, oven, and even a small television. She's living the life. Wow. What can I say? If anyone deserves such glamour, it's the Gold Saucer's leading lady. You know it! Jessie moves over to the stove to prepare something. Meanwhile, Tifa's eyes caught by the couch. A stack of Stop Shinra Save Gaia flyers sit atop it. Her reaction is ambivalent. Jessie breaks her train of thought. You ready to show me how it's done? Huh? Jessie holds up a bag of red Shelly. I don't know what red Shelly is, so I assume it's in a bag. Could be in a jar, for all I don't know. I want to try the famous Lockhart special. Tifa grins and moves over to the cooking corner. You sure you're ready for it? Can't make any promises, but I won't hold it against you if not. Jessie gestures to her cutting board. Come on, I'll even lend a helping hand. Okay, but I better not catch you tainting my masterpiece. Jessie makes an overly animated gasp. I wouldn't dream of doing so. The girls both laugh as they get to work. 30 minutes later, Tifa and Jessie now sit on the couch, giving their pizza a taste test. Holy Teefs, how'd I fare against your mom? Jessie gives her a smirk. Not even close. Honestly, I'm ashamed my oven was subjected to such a sad excuse for a pie. Jessie grabs another slice, evidently enjoying the one she hasn't finished chewing. Better try again next week. Jessie's eating 2 slices at once now. Tifa can't hold her laughter anymore. The jovial moment is ended prematurely as Tifa's eyes shift back to the stack of flyers that have now been moved to the floor. Hey, what are these? Oh, just a little hobby of mine. Some pushback against all that corporate BS. Right. Are these all it takes? Jessie pauses, understanding her implication. Truthfully, no. Most folks just tear them down. But part of me does kind of love just making their day a little bit harder. Tifa smiles at the thought. You're terrible. Want to be terrible together? Jessie holds up a blank page of paper and a black marker. Tifa grins, then snatches them away. Guess it wouldn't hurt to dip my toes in. Later, we see Tifa and Jessie lie sleeping on the couch. Markers are still clutched in their hands while freshly drawn flyers scatter the floor. Suddenly, a knock at Jessie's door jolts both girls awake. This is Shinra Public Security. Open up, Avalanche scum. Damn it. Jessie crams various belongings in her pockets before kicking down a flimsy spot in her back wall. Tifa watches in a panicked shock. Come on! Jessie gestures to her fresh escape route. Tifa rushes over and squeezes through. Jessie follows soon after. The officer knocks down Jessie's door before she's fully through. Freeze! Jessie ignores his command and keeps moving. The officer fires a spray of bullets. Jessie avoids all except for one which pierces her abdomen. She breaks through the crack and clutches her wound. Are you hit? Just run! Tifa and Jessie zip through the winding roads of the slums. They weave in and out of different streets, just barely avoiding the many public security officers. Tifa leads the way while Jessie does her best to keep up. Where the hell are we going? My place. Tifa, no, you'll be a target. Got any other ideas? Jessie racks her brain for a moment. Fine. We make it to Tifa's container. Jessie crouches behind the container while Tifa unlocks her door. Once open, she sticks her hand out with a thumbs up far enough for Jessie to see. Jessie begins to crawl around, but a voice forces her to stop. Tifa, did you see her? Tifa spins around to face him, acting as if she's got nothing to hide. Who? They're saying a runaway terrorist was heading to the row. Tifa's eyes go wide. No, I haven't seen anyone. Great, let's hope it stays that way. Tifa nods. What are you doing up so late? Oh, I just had to use the restroom. I should probably get back to bed now, though. Gotcha. Then don't let me keep you. Good night. Good night. Tifa enters her container. She closes the door ajar and watches Rakesh through the crack. When she's far enough away, Tifa springs back out and around to retrieve Jessie. Tifa uses her body as a shield as she smuggles her in, then urgently slams the door shut. Jessie collapses on the ground. Let's get you on the mattress. Tifa, I'm not gonna bleed all over your bed. Yes, you are. In a labored struggle for both, Tifa rolls Jessie over onto the mattress. She pulls up Jessie's top to reveal a red gash above her left hip. Tifa winces at the sight of it. Jessie sees her reaction. That bad? In a panicked flurry, Tifa grabs a t-shirt, a roll of gauze, and a bottle of painkillers. She firmly presses the folded t-shirt on the wound, making Jessie hiss in agony. Sorry! Jessie gives a weak laugh. Tifa wraps the gauze tightly around Jessie's waist, sealing the shirt for the time being. She then gives her the bottle of pills. Take these, quick! Jessie obliges. Tifa sits down at the edge of the mattress, desperately trying to slow her racing heart and breath. The girls sit in silence for a moment. You alright, Tiefs? You're asking me? I'm not the one having an asthma attack. Well, you should be. So, do you want to tell me about Avalanche? What's there to tell? Maybe you should start with why you're shot? Jessie sighs. We haven't done anything yet. They've made sure of that. Unless you think a few flyers and screenings warrant a bullet. I take it Biggs and Wedge are in on it too? Jessie nods. They probably found them as well. Tifa lets her rage bubble for a moment before she releases it as a fist to the container wall. Damn, Shinra. Jessie is startled and begins to sit herself up. Tifa's indignant features fade into those of terror. Her breath becomes shaky. Jessie notices the shift and scoots herself to sit next to her. Hey, what's wrong? Tifa's mouth is open yet silent. It looks as if she intends to speak, but her voice won't allow her. Sorry, I shouldn't pry. It was them. A mix of sympathy and anger develop in Jessie's eyes. She wraps an arm around Tifa's shoulders. They sent soldiers to survey our town's reactor. One of them was Sephiroth. He's the one that... Tifa chokes on her words and begins to tear up. Jessie holds her tighter as Tifa's head moves to rest on her shoulder. It's all gone, Jessie. Jessie remains silent, focused on being Tifa's rock. They hold their embrace for a good while. Then my dad confronted him. Tifa barely squeaks out those last couple words. Jessie starts crying upon hearing them. Oh, Tifa, I tried to avenge him. Tifa struggles to speak through her flood of tears. I want to forget it all. But I'm all that's left. Jessie holds her for a moment longer before extending her arms to look Tifa in the eyes. Then there's no better person to carry on the legacy. Tifa manages a soft smile while she tries to catch her breath. Thanks, Jessie. Tifa lies back so her back meets the mattress. Jessie follows suit. Tifa takes deep breaths and begins to dry her tears. I'm sorry. You need to stop apologizing. Sorry. Jessie looks over at Tifa to find her beaming at the ceiling. Jessie can't help but grin and roll her eyes through the red puffiness. Your dad isn't gone. Tifa now looks at Jessie, who is now looking at the ceiling. How can you be sure, though? Jessie now meets her gaze. They can take nearly everything from us, Tifa. Our homes, our sunlight, our family, even our bodies. But not our conviction. That's all we've got. Tifa hugs Jessie tight. Jessie reciprocates. Fade to black. Title card, 4 years later. The very next thing we cut to is back to the Sector 8 clinic backyard, where Tifa and Rakesh are going at it again. This time, they're obviously noticeably older, taller, stronger, even bleeds into their fighting styles. They're both clearly more experienced, more precise, etc., etc. We see Rakesh becoming increasingly irritated as Tifa keeps getting attacks off. Eventually that builds to this desperation in the form of this whirlwind of front and hook kicks and wheel kicks. It backs Tifa into a corner and she attempts to block it, but she gets hit, knocked to the floor. Rakesh attempts to pick her up and get her back to his mother's, but Tifa refuses this time. Then we smash cut to Tifa's container just about 10 minutes later, as she slams a bag of ice on her injured arm, grimacing in pain. She sits on her chair and rests her arm on the small desk. On the table are a familiar stack of Stop Shinra Save Gaia flyers, as well as half a dozen planetology documentaries. Her gaze moves past the desk and onto the floor, where a bulky purse resides. Tifa picks it up with her good arm and opens it. The handbag is crammed tight with countless bills and coins. Tifa zips and unzips the bag a few times, as if she's paranoid they'll disappear at any moment. When satisfied, she puts the purse back in its corner on the floor. She then tosses a pile of old clothes on top to obscure it. One shirt of the bunch catches her eye. She rescues it from the pile. Though once white, a pinkish hue now coats the majority of the cloth. Tifa clutches the shirt to her chest and scrunches her face in heartache. The next few scenes are really all about implying what happened during the time skip. We can infer that Jessie hasn't been in her life for a while. We can infer that she's not really on great terms with Rakesh, and she's not in as happy of a headspace as she was. We get a scene of her eating alone at the pizza parlor that she once ate at with Biggs, Wedge, and Jessie. We get a scene of her putting up planetology flyers by herself, and it's clear this is something she's done a billion times before. We get a scene with her and Rakesh as he tries to make small talk, some sort of conversation, but she's just not interested. Right as he's about to go, he mentions that Container Row no longer gets electricity access, so she has to pay for it. And he just blames it on Avalanche, which naturally doesn't help with the levels of animosity between them. He tries to assure her that, hey, if you need someone to talk to, I'm here, but she's just not interested again. Then we find ourselves at the buns stand again. Tifa makes buns at a drastically more efficient rate now. Her hands have clearly memorized the movements, not requiring much immediate brain power anymore. Customer says, "Could I get 2 steamed buns, hon?" Tifa nods, but doesn't bother to make eye contact. She mindlessly prepares the buns in just a couple seconds. As she hands the buns over, her face lights up as she realizes the customer was none other than Marl. And here I was thinking you missed me. Of course I did. I went in one Wednesday and they said I just missed you. You know I would have said goodbye. I'm just yanking your chain. Marl's signature smirk returns to her mouth. Although, you could have paid me a visit. Or is little Miss Lockhart too busy for a sad old lady like me? Tifa laughs and returns the smirk. Well, maybe you should have left an address. I did. That doctor's boy said he'd relay it to you. Really? A confused rage begins to fester within Tifa. Marl interjects before it can build any further. Well, there's no lousy messenger stopping me now. Marl pulls out a business card and hands it to Tifa. It reads at the top, Stargazer Heights. Then we do a cool little fade in where you see the text of the business card fade into the actual sign of the building. Then we just get a quick little update on how Marl's doing, how she's found new land obviously, and now that Tifa admits she hasn't really been outside of 8 at all, and Marl says, come on, let's go get lunch. Then we find ourselves at a little building called 7th Heaven. Tifa looks up in awe at the large sign branding the impressive building. In slums crammed with twisting rows of housing and shops, the restaurant surprisingly has plenty of room to breathe. It's propped up by a spacious porch, one that's surface area could fit at least a few containers from the row. Marl opens the front double doors. A bell announces her entry. Oh, Monty! A tall but frail gentleman stands up from behind the bar to wave. Monty looks to be in his 70s or so. Brought a +1 with you for once, Marl? So you know she's special. Marl gestures between Tifa and Monty. Monty, Tifa. Tifa, Monty. It's very nice to meet you. Monty responds with a warm smile. You new to the sector, Tifa? Oh, I live over in 8, just visiting. Well, we best make it worth your while then. Sit down, why don't you? Tifa and Marl take a seat at the bar. Monty grabs a pan and starts frying a steak. Oh, thanks but no thanks. I don't have any cash on me. If Marl's bringing you in, then you must be alright. It's on the house. Wow, thank you so much. Hey, where's my thank you for the VIP pass? The three of them all laugh. So, how long have you been running the bar? It was actually only built a few years ago. Became the highlight of 7 in no time. Tifa smiles. I can see why. Surprised I didn't have to wait in line today. A bitter sweetness finds its way across Monty's features. We had our glory days, that's for sure, but I fear it's near time we part ways. What? How come? Monty sighs. Bartender quit last year. Business has been dead since. And these old hands alone ain't quick enough to keep up with the late hours no more. Tifa looks at him apologetically. I was behind on paying off the builder anyway, so the place is going back on the market in a few weeks. Guess it was meant to be. We had a great run though, better than I ever could have asked for. For a good while, the only sound in the room is from the sizzle of the pan. Tifa stares at her hands in deep contemplation. We can still go out with a bang, can't we? Both Monty and Marl are caught off guard. They look at Tifa, then at each other, then back to Tifa. I mean, I've got nothing better to do on Wednesdays. Monty smiles, followed by Marl, followed by Tifa. Later that night, Tifa walks down the row with a smile on her face. She begins to hear footsteps, but she isn't startled. Rakesh starts walking alongside her. So, we just gonna walk in silence? Hi. Rakesh laughs, but Tifa is unenthused. How was your rest day? Restful. Tifa doesn't make eye contact when responding. Good. Restful is good. Do you think we could get back to sparring next week then? Sorry, I've got other plans. What, you found someone cooler to hang out with? Rakesh tries to pass his remark off as a joke, but there's a prevalent layer of envy coating his words. Tifa lets the question hang in the air for a moment. Do you remember that woman who needed skin grafts for her back a few years ago? Your mother had me convince her to get the treatment. Oh, of course. How could I forget her? Tifa ignores Rakesh's pejorative tone. Great, then I suppose you didn't forget her request to relay her address to me? For a split second, it looks as if Rakesh has seen a ghost. He quickly recovers into a playfully ignorant demeanor. Well, I don't recall every little detail. Heck, maybe she doesn't either. Probably just a misunderstanding. Tifa snorts. Convenient. Wait, is this who you're blowing me off for? That old hag? Rakesh releases a forced laugh that grates on Tifa's ears like poorly handled styrofoam. Let me guess, she's brainwashing you back into that cultist gibberish as well. It's none of your business. Well, if you think about it, Tifa stops walking and looks Rakesh in the eyes. I will pay off my debt. What do you think I'm doing 78 hours a week? Outside of that, you are not entitled to a single second of my time, so leave me the hell alone. Tifa walks away. Rakesh doesn't follow. Next scene we get is Tifa's first day working at the bar. She enters the bar as Monty's wiping down tabletop. She's like, I'm nervous, I hope I got this. And Monty's like, it's okay, I don't think we'll have a huge turnout. But little does he know, the turnout's ridiculous. I wrote this like night rush montage for the bar. I wanted to set some sort of rhythm and pace that would continually increase as the hours become more chaotic. So I had this idea where the customers' empty glasses and bills keep getting slammed down on the counter once they're done and they're ordering more and they're done with their drink. You know, the idea is the slams keep becoming more frequent until there's one final slam when Monty sets down his glass and the montage is over. Now, since I'm boring, I don't drink, and since I'm Asian, I probably couldn't even if I wanted to. So I don't really know how bars work, but
I think it's cool. So let me know if there are bars like that, because I have no idea. After a night rushes over, Monty sets down his glass and he's visibly exhausted. All the customers have left. Tifa goes from table to table collecting the remaining glasses and bills. She returns to Monty once finished. Are you alright? Monty smiles. Best I've been in quite some time. Tifa reciprocates the smile. Thank you, Tifa. I'm just glad I could help. Monty picks up a thick wad of cash and sets it on the table. Here, your take home. Tifa's jaw hits the floor. This is too much. 50%. I better take it before I offer you more. Tifa reluctantly takes the money and slips it into her pocket. Let's have a good last 2 weeks here, shall we? Yes, we will. Stay safe, Tifa. You too. Thank you. Oh, and could you flip the sign on your way out? Tifa nods. Just as she turns around, a late customer enters. It's Jessie. Both girls are startled to see each other. Jessie gathers her composure and strikes a sly smile. Sorry, we're closed. Come on, can't you make an exception? 5 minutes later, Tifa and Jessie sit at the bar a stool apart. Jessie slowly sips on her drink Monty prepared. So, you gonna say anything? What do you want me to say? I don't know, maybe how's it going? How's it going? Aw, how thoughtful. Tifa attempts to cover the small smile that snuck across her face. Not a ton though, just a whole lot of laying low. How about Biggs and Wedge? Jessie nods after taking another swig of her drink. Yeah, they're good. Never actually got caught somehow. Tifa nods but sits still in discomfort. I guess Seven's been really good to you then. Yeah, for sure. A painful silence ensues. The girls squirm in their chairs, desperately trying to grasp the right words in their head. The headache makes Jessie opt for a more blunt remark. Shoot, I'm sorry, Tiefs, I really am, but you know I had to hide. I think the apology ship has sailed. Well, maybe it's coming back around. It's still 3 years late. Jessie opens her mouth, but no comeback leaves it. You could have at least told me to my face. I mean, can you imagine how it felt to find out with just a note? Jessie swallows hard. I finally had someone I trusted, someone I could tell about, you know. And one day, I didn't. I was the only one who knew? Tifa nods, but can't look Jessie in the eyes. I was worried you'd come with me. Tifa now looks at Jessie. And so what if I did? I didn't want to drag you down with me. What's that supposed to mean? Tifa, you were young and innocent. You were free to do whatever you wanted with your future. It wasn't my place to sway you into, you know. Tifa scoffs. Free, huh? Do you want to know where I still live, Jessie? Where I still work? How it feels to have Rakesh breathing down my neck every second? Jessie's horrified and contrite. She has no words. Back then, I had you. I had planetology. It was starting to feel like I might have even had a purpose beyond paying off a debt. I had something I actually gave a damn about. How can you say you left me a choice when you made it for me? I just want to help you and you just... Tifa's words trail off. She hides her sobbing face in her palms. Jessie scoots over a stool to sit next to Tifa. You're right. You're absolutely right. Her words visibly pain Tifa further. You did what you had to. Jessie's eyes well up. She shakes her head. No, I should have known better. You were looking out for me. I thought I was. Damn it. Tifa reaches out and brings Jessie into a hug. Jessie is startled at first, but quickly reciprocates. I was so stupid, Tifa. I'm sorry. We both were. The girls hold their embrace for a bit longer before releasing it. They wipe their tears. Can we pick up where we left off? I'll think about it. Come back next week? Jessie smiles. Deal. That night, Tifa walks home to her container and she looks around, expecting Rakesh, but no one's there, so she just goes inside. The next week, when she goes back to Sector 7, it's very, very cold. There's obviously no snow that's actually falling because there's a plate, but the air is not fun. Marl is there chatting with Monty. They're ready to get to work, expecting a big lunch rush again. But no. A single customer quickly puts down a cup of coffee and leaves. The bar is surprisingly empty at lunchtime. Thank you very much. The customer exits through the doors and rushes down the stairs and away from the bar. Tifa's gaze follows his movements until it lands on a large man sitting at an outside porch table. Shoot! Tifa's voice gets caught in her throat as she notices the man's right arm has been replaced by a heavy-looking machine gun. More surprisingly, a young girl bundled up in a cheap blanket sits on the chair in front of him. These are Barrett, 34, and Marlene Wallace, 3. May I take your order? Barrett ever so slightly pushes his sunglasses down his nose. 1 coffee and 1 juice. Pretty please. Right away, sir. Tifa goes back inside and walks up to Monty and Marl. 1 coffee and 1 juice. On it. Monty prepares the drinks while Tifa looks back through the front windows. Worry drags down her face. Ready? Tifa takes the drinks outside and sets them on Barrett and Marlene's table. Here you are. Barrett takes his mug. Marlene jumps out of her blanket to grab the juice. Thank you, lady. Tifa smiles at first, but as she jumps, Tifa sees thick dandruff fall from Marlene's head. Her clothes look like they haven't been washed in a good week either. Tifa stands and stares a tad too long. Are we done here? Yes, sorry. Tifa retreats back inside. She stops in the center of the room and ponders for a moment, then exits back out the doors to Barrett and Marlene. Can I offer you a seat inside? We're good. Are you sure? We're good. Tifa backs away, but not before taking a second glance at Marlene. Suit yourself. Tifa goes back inside and rests her forearms on the bar counter with Monty and Marl. The bell suddenly rings as the doors swing open. Tifa looks over her shoulder, hoping to see Barrett change his mind, but it's Jessie. Am I welcome here? Tifa smiles. I don't know. Let's see if you can pass the entrance exam. Jessie snorts a laugh. She walks inside and sits at a table. Tifa goes to sit down with her. An exam, huh? An extensive questionnaire. True or false? That would be too easy. Multiple choice? Free response. Jessie pretends to be horrified. The performance earns a giggle from Tifa. You are diabolical. Jessie sits back, straightens her posture, and neatly folds her hands as if she's a model student. Alright, I'm ready. What's the secret ingredient of the Lockhart special? Jessie rolls her eyes. Could it be red Shelly by any chance? And I think you mean the Jessie Raspberry special? Tifa's mouth is agape with a smile as she slowly shakes her head. You little thief. That night, Tifa collects a customer's empty glass. Even by evening, the bar remains quiet. Barrett and Marlene have moved inside to a back corner of the building. Jessie remains in the same seat. A man starts walking up the front steps of the bar, but freezes and retreats at the sight of Barrett through the windows. Tifa walks over to Monty with the used glass. Thanks, Tifa. Could you tell those two we're closing up soon? Tifa nods and walks over to Barrett and Marlene. Before she can say anything, she sees Marlene curled up sleeping on a chair. Tifa forgets her initial intention. What the hell you staring at? Tifa's head flicks to Barrett's direction. She then abruptly speeds over to Monty. Do you know a place they could stay? Excuse me? Is there a shelter or anything here in 7? Tifa, these are the slums we're talking about. Tifa lets out a defeated sigh as she rests her knuckles on the bar counter. Monty looks over at a glaring Barrett and a now awake and curious Marlene. He looks back at Tifa. I suppose this old shack does have a basement, though. A glimmer of hope ignites in Tifa's pupils. You'd be okay with that? If you're okay with the rent coming out for your paycheck. Tifa lightly chuckles. Thank you. Tifa rushes back over to Barrett and Marlene. We're closing soon, but I just want to let you know that you two are welcome to stay the night. Marlene jumps with excitement, but Barrett's reaction is sour. He stands up and takes a step towards Tifa. What are we, some kind of charity case to you? I'm just trying to help. Help me get tied down to your coin, more like. The words are a nasty punch to Tifa's gut. They flip a switch inside her. There is nothing in this for me. Bull. It's not. I'd rather rough it than take 10 years of debt. Roughing it's not going to give her a bath and clean clothes. The anger in Barrett's face evaporates. Tifa pauses to soak in the regret. I'm sorry, I shouldn't have said that. Barrett looks at the ground, then takes a long stare at Marlene. Where's your basement at? Now as Barrett and Marlene go downstairs in the hidden elevator, Jessie and Tifa talk a little bit about, what's happened, how Biggs and Wedge are holding up, and, if they've gotten to do anything as Avalanche, which obviously they haven't. So she just says, we keep talking about it, we want to do something, but we're not decisive enough, right? And suddenly, Barrett butts in, and he's like, just let me be your leader, lol. There's obviously a little pushback at first, but everyone kind of likes the idea. But they ultimately decide, forget it, how could we get anything done as Avalanche when we don't even have a base? Next, we get one last scene at the Steam Bun stand as Tifa's helping a customer. It's a quieter hour. Pops is for once, he's actually praising her, wow, you're doing so well, you think we can break 1500 again today? And Tifa says, you know what, I'm thinking of quitting. Pops, he pretends not to care, but offhandedly he does say, maybe don't tell Rakesh. Tifa's kind of perturbed by that, so she's like, why? He's like, I just don't imagine he's going to take it too well. Speaking of Rakesh, next Wednesday, Tifa walks into the bar, flipping the sign from closed to open. Inside, Marlene runs from table to table, wiping them down with a hand towel. Barrett assists Monty with organizing various drinks and shakers. Looks like you're earning your stay. Barrett wears a smug grin. I may be a lot of things, but a freeloader ain't one of them. Tifa responds with a smile. Her gaze finds its way to Barrett's arm, noticing that his gun appendage has been removed. She stares a little too long. Monty said I was scaring the customers. Oh, sorry. Barrett responds with a chuckle. So, have you found a place? Oh, did Monty tell you? In a few days, the bar's going back on the market. Don't worry, we'll be out of your hair soon. Barrett forces a smile, but Tifa sees through it. She bites her lip. The bell rings as the front doors swing open. Tifa spins around and shock takes hold of her features. It's Rakesh. Rakesh starts walking forward. Tifa quickly recovers with a thoroughly rehearsed smile. Wow, real homey place. Thanks, what will you be having? Rakesh doesn't answer the question, he just keeps looking around. His eyes land on Marlene for a moment, making Barrett nearly leap over the counter. Are you really only open on Wednesdays? That's right, although this will be our last one. Oh? Place goes back to the builder in a few days. Ah, that's quite the shame. Rakesh tilts his head and gives Tifa a knowing look that says everything but, I'm on to you. Her smile shatters. Monty simply nods. So am I looking at the dream team right now? Monty softly chuckles. That's what you want to call us. Who does what, if you don't mind? Tifa is fuming. These two are helping out today, but it's usually just me and Tifa. I'm about the drinks and she's about the efficiency. Gotcha. And how long has this partnership been going on? Just a few weeks. A few weeks? Yes. Rakesh makes an irritating smirk. It immediately fades as he looks back over to Monty. So you're the brains behind everything, huh? Monty shrugs. Just do my thing and hope the folks enjoy it. Rakesh gives Monty a playful push on the shoulder, though it's a bit too hard and nearly breaks his balance. Ah, come on, give yourself some credit. I doubt there'd even be a restaurant without you. I guess not. That's more like it. Enjoy your last day then. It's sad to see you guys go. Thank you. Jesse enters the bar as Rakesh is walking out. Rakesh bumps her shoulder with his own as he exits. What the hell? Rakesh doesn't pay her any attention and continues his leave. What was his deal? Really good question. Jesse's head zips in Tifa's direction. Shoot, was that? Yes. What's he doing in 7? Probably checking if his property's stepping out of line. Tifa, is everything alright? Tifa takes a good look around the room. She makes firm eye contact with Jesse, then Barrett, then Marlene, then Monty. How much is the builder asking? What? In 2 days, for the bar. Tifa. 200 grand. Tifa leans on the bar, closes her eyes and thinks hard. She eventually takes a deep and conclusive breath. I hope you haven't made any down payments yet. Hell no! Everyone laughs for a moment. But how? Sometimes it pays to be stingy. Wait, but what about your, I'll be fine, especially with the bar. /home/base. Jesse, Barrett, and Monty all beam at the comment. Thanks, Tiefs, really. Tifa nods. Tomorrow morning. Jesse raises an eyebrow. What about the bun stand? Tifa shrugs. Been a few years since my last sick day. Think I'm due for another. So Tifa goes home that night and she takes a look at the purse again, and without even opening it, there's this new sense of security and optimism in her eyes. And for the first time, she actually goes to sleep with a smile on her face. Next morning, we get a quick little shot of Monty tearing down a little sign on the front door of 7th Heaven that says, "Thanks for a great run." Meanwhile, Tifa's trying to exit the container with the purse clutched in her hands, but she gets hit in the head. She doesn't know from who yet, although it's pretty easy to infer. But as her vision is fading and someone picks up the purse, she sees the Zongon's cord on this fella's arm. About 30 minutes later, she wakes up tied to a chair in a dingy room filled with miscellaneous boxes and medical supplies. She fights the musty air with a fierce cough. Good morning. Tifa snaps her attention towards Rakesh. He's sitting down cross-legged, still enough to the point where he blends in with the storage materials. Rakesh tosses the open purse at Tifa's feet. The contents spill out, revealing it to have been filled with stacks of folded planetology flyers. Where is it? I don't have it. Rakesh scoffs. It's not a big container, Tifa. I'm aware. Rakesh gives her a solid, cold stare. What about that poor little bar of yours? Who's gonna save it? Saved. Past tense. Rakesh grits his teeth. Should have figured. It was that avalanche beach, wasn't it? What? How is she back? Tifa's voice becomes a throaty whisper. Back? Thought I already put her away years ago. You're with Shinra? It doesn't take a contract to make a phone call, Tifa. Tifa releases a sigh of disbelief. You a-hole! Watch it! Rakesh rushes forward to shove his grip on Tifa's throat. She holds still until he lets go. I give you a home, a job, a sparring partner. Hell, I saved your damn life, Tifa. And what do? Fund a terrorist organization behind my back. Tifa opens her mouth to retort, but bites her tongue, opting for a more rational approach. The bar is an investment. I'll pay off the procedure quicker. So I should just enable Avalanche then? Real bright idea. That's not what this is about. Of course it is. No. Rakesh rests his hands on Tifa's tied wrists as he leans forward and looks her dead in the eyes. No. No. You're pissed that I might not be trapped under your thumb for a day of my life. Rakesh holds the glare for a moment longer before easing back and crossing his arms. He looks up at a random spot on the wall. He thinks for a moment before snickering to himself. Tifa watches in disgust. You know, Wall Market's just a couple sectors over. Not a chance. I'd say there is. I mean, don't forget how much dough we'll be raking in. Or that your friend is just one call away from Shinra knocking on her door. Tifa scowls. Seems like non-zero to me. She'll find a way. She always does. Whatever helps you sleep at night. Though, you probably won't be sleeping much over at the Honeybee Inn. Jeez, I forgot I wrote that. That's terrible. Rakesh makes a despicable smirk. Tifa glares harder. Leave her alone. Sector 6 it is then. Go to hell. Rakesh shakes his head with a dirty smile. I'm afraid we don't have that kind of luxury, sweetheart. Rakesh starts walking to the door. Where are you going? Don't worry, just taking care of some loose ends. Can't risk having a bartender there waiting to resume business when you run back. Just be a good girl and sit tight. Rakesh opens the door but pauses before exiting. He snorts. Expect to provide me with your services for free. Call it compensation for this little stunt. Rakesh! Rakesh slams the door shut. Jessie storms into the restaurant with Tifa's purse. She's wrapped a scarf around her face to obscure it. Monty, Barrett, and Marl are already there waiting. Jessie tears off the scarf and slams the purse on the bar counter. You got the address? Committed to memory. Where's Tifa? Shoot, she didn't shake him? You tell me. I don't know, I got the cash and dipped. Jessie thinks for a moment. Well, what's the plan? Nothing changes. Nothing? Jessie grabs the scarf again. I'll go back to 8. Barrett is still paying the builder. Then what are we waiting for? The bell rings as the doors swing open. Barrett quickly hides the money behind the bar counter. No way! Open on a Thursday? Jessie's eyes fill with dread as soon as she hears his voice. That's right. What's the special occasion? We'll be under new ownership soon. New chapter, new hours. Why isn't that some convenient timing? Rakesh walks up to the bar and sticks out his hand to Monty for a shake. Sorry, I don't think I've ever introduced myself. Rakesh. You can call me Monty. Monty shakes his hand. He's ready to let go after a couple seconds, but Rakesh's grip tightens, not allowing any escape. I trust you'll still be serving though, right? Monty's friendly demeanor shifts to that of fear as he stares into Rakesh's vile glare. Before he can piece together a response, Rakesh clasps Monty's palm with both hands and swiftly snaps it backwards. His brittle bones audibly crack as Monty cries out in agony. Before Rakesh can do more damage, Jessie shoves him away. What the hell is wrong with you? Rakesh laughs. How ironic. What? Look, just give me what's mine and maybe I won't have to call the cops again. Jessie is about to retort but comes to an abrupt halt as she makes the realization. Her anger shoots right back up upon doing so. You piece of shh! Jessie starts hurling flailing punches at Rakesh, but he dodges all of them. Barrett, go! I'll hold him off. Jessie's next punch is countered as she takes a hit square on the jaw. Barrett stops moving as soon as he witnesses it. Go, now! Another of Jessie's punches is met with 2 firm blows to her gut. Barrett looks at the money, then back at Jessie. His face of uncertainty morphs into that of a battle-ready warrior. So now we have a little intercutting going on, between Tifa trying to break out the storage room and Rakesh fighting off Barrett and Jessie. So Tifa's squirming around the chair. She's trying to shove the chair over with all her strength. She eventually kicks down a box and medical supplies spill out, and she goes and tries to fish up a scalpel with her feet and flick it over to her. Jessie and Barrett aren't doing too hot. They're kind of getting tossed around, again, like thrown on top of each other. At one point, Jessie gets him into a chokehold, but he just throws her over his back. She lands flat on her back in front of him, just stomps on her head. This guy sucks. Eventually, Tifa flicks the scalpel up and it lands in her thigh, like blade first. It hurts, but you know, she pulls it out with her hand and cuts herself out. So Barrett falls on his backside again. He looks over with concern at an unconscious Jessie. Rakesh snickers. This is the team that's gonna take down Shinra, huh? Barrett gets up and attempts to take advantage of Rakesh's narcissism, but Rakesh nonchalantly answers with a sidekick to the face. Barrett's lights go out as he lands on top of Jessie. After a satisfied scoff, Rakesh shifts his attention back to Marl and Monty. An old broom vibrates in Marl's unsteady grip as she arms herself. Quick and painless, promise. Rakesh begins to approach Marl and Monty. He halts at the sound of the bell. What would your mother think? Rakesh is shocked for once, but recovers his smug demeanor before turning around to face her. Tifa is visibly out of breath, though does her best not to show it. A few bandages cover her left leg and arms. One covers her wrist, where Zongun's cord is now absent, because something tells me she wouldn't approve. I think she'd be more understanding than you'd expect. Tifa grits her teeth. Right. So long as you can bring them back to the clinic. Rakesh makes a snarky grin. Might as well get you checked up as well. Tifa balls her fists in rage. Both fighters ready themselves as they step into stance. As if rehearsed, Tifa and Rakesh both spring forward with flying sidekicks. Their technique mirrors each other's perfectly as the soles of their boots connect. They quickly bounce off. Neither fighter holds back as Tifa's agility competes with Rakesh's power. She releases dense barrages of attacks, many connecting but leaving Rakesh unfazed. Rakesh responds with singular heavy strikes of his own, all of which Tifa narrowly dodges. Tifa's offense builds to an impulsive flurry. Red invades her vision as she releases all her pent-up hatred on Rakesh's guard without strategy. Her recklessness is punished as Rakesh finally gets a front kick through to her body. The force shoots Tifa down the 7th heaven double doors. She tumbles down the porch steps and onto the dirt ground. Rakesh walks down to meet her. He extends a condescending hand. How does a trip to the clinic sound now? Tifa furrows her brow and she clenches her stomach. Come on, I'll even chauffeur you. Rakesh attempts to pick Tifa up. She rejects his efforts with her foot to his jaw. Rakesh stumbles backwards as Tifa rolls out and recovers to her feet. You beach! Rakesh drops all the composure he had before. The nature of the battle is turned on its head. Rakesh's attacks become untamed and careless, whereas Tifa is now methodical with each motion. She rarely strikes first, instead waiting for Rakesh to slip up so she can counter. Though it takes receiving several good hits and a bloody nose to do so, Tifa gradually wears down Rakesh's vitality. She quickly evades his jump roundhouse, dashing in, catching his fall with hands around his neck and a knee to his gut, just as he did to her their first spar. She catches his palm strike with both hands and bends it back until all functionality is removed, just as he did to Monty. She slips under his wheel kick and lands a sharp punch in the same spot Jessie took a bullet. Rakesh doesn't go down with a bombastic finisher, but crumbles to the dirt from enervation. Tifa looks just a handful of hits away from doing the same herself. Tifa stands over his body, looking down at his bruised and bloodied face. Conceit somehow still lives in his eyes. Tifa fights the urge to look away from them. I'm sick of this. All of this. Tifa lifts her heel and slams it on Rakesh's groin. He barely has the strength left to squirm. She swivels her foot a few times for good measure, grinding what's left to a pulp. We never got it with Don Corneo, so I wanted to get it here. I know it's pretty brutal, though. Just as she finishes the job, Barrett opens the front door and tries to piece together what he missed. Tifa signals him over. Next scene, we see they took everyone to the clinic. Barrett, Jessie, Rakesh, Monty, Tifa as well. They're all getting checked up, okay? Damini is rightfully horrified, but she also does feel guilty, so she patches them all up. We have Tifa sitting anxiously outside the waiting room as Damini opens the door with a forced smile. How is she? Jessie will be fine. Tifa sits back and exhales in relief. She notices that Damini is carrying a large, heavy-looking bag. Tifa produces a curious stare. Damini drops it at her feet. That's for you. Tifa opens the bag to find countless bills and coins. She instantly knows from the steamed bun smell that they were once hers. What for? Damini sits down across from Tifa and takes a deep yet shaky breath. Rakesh, he has a bit of a problem. I'm aware. Damini shakes her head. No, at the chocobo races. He can't stop. We tried everything. It's put the clinic in a lot of trouble. So this is for all those sparring accidents then? Part is, yes. Part? There's also your electricity bills. The source was never changed. And Damini swallows a painful chunk of pride. You've also had to overcharge patients. Tifa's face stiffens as she hears the word. What was my procedure supposed to cost? A third. Tifa's eyes bulge out of her skull. A breath of disbelief escapes her throat. We don't have all of it anymore, but I put together everything I could find. I'm so sorry. Tifa stares at the floor, still not having come to terms with it. We really appreciate everything you did for Damini instantly regrets her poor choice of words. Everything we made you do. Tifa looks up at Damini. She takes a long and satisfying breath. About 45 minutes later, we find ourselves back at 7th Heaven. Tifa walks into 7th Heaven with Jessie by her side, arms slung around her shoulders. Barrett follows from behind as he guides Monty up the steps. Marl and Marlene are cleaning up Rakesh's mess. Daddy! Marlene runs up and hugs Barrett's leg. He gently strokes her head. Hey, Angel. I've been helping. I can see that. I'm a big girl. Yes, you are. Can my big girl wait a teensy bit longer for Dad to put Monty and Jessie in bed? Marlene gives an enthusiastic nod. Barrett takes Monty and Jessie down to the secret basement. Tifa kneels down next to Marlene. Thank you for cleaning, Marlene. I'm sorry for the mess. You made this? Tifa nods with a guilty pout. You meanie. I know. Marlene looks at Tifa's eyes, then at the floor. I'm sorry, that wasn't very nice. No, you're right. No need to apologize. Tifa places a hand on Marlene's shoulder. Marlene notices her bandages from both the scalpel and the fight. She gasps. Are you okay? Tifa retracts her hand to avoid scaring her further. Oh, yeah, I'm fine. Just a long day. Tifa tries to comfort Marlene with a warm smile. Well, you're home now, right? You can rest. Daddy can tuck you in too. Tifa laughs, then looks at Marlene. Though her eyes are glossy, her smile is as wide and bright as ever. I am. Cut to black. Title card, 1 year later. The bar is packed with customers. 5 glasses are lined up in a row. Tifa juggles 3 different shakers. Her movements are graceful and spontaneous. Once finished, she pours them into their respective glasses and precisely slides each over to the appropriate customer. The drinkers all slam their bills on the counter. Tifa swiftly collects them. Jessie sits in the nearby corner and organizes bills with Marlene. Tifa gives her the cash. Think I'm gonna take a breather. You mind taking over for a bit? Ugh, fine. But you owe me. Thanks. Jessie walks up to Tifa's spot behind the bar. Alright everyone, Tifa's taking a break. You've got me for the next 15 minutes. The entire bar roars with disappointment.
No! Why?
What the hell?
How could she?
No!
Money back,
Never
man!
coming here again! Tifa and Jessie laugh. Tifa makes her leave, saluting to Barrett as she passes him guarding the front doors. Tifa takes a stroll through the slums. The sun lamps are beginning to dim, but the steel sky no longer feels as out of reach. Tifa looks over at the bulletin board, seeing some Stop Shinra Save Gaia flyers. A third of them are written in Barrett's illegible handwriting. It makes her smile. Tifa makes her way to the nearby train station. She sees a stop get off. Families reunite and embrace. The sight pains her slightly, but her smile doesn't fade. She slowly walks down the station until abruptly coming to a stop. Her heart begins to race. Her eyes refuse to blink. In the reflection is the image of a half-awake, young, blonde soldier sitting up against the station steps. His hands are clutched around a large broadsword that lays across his lap. Tifa can't believe her eyes. Cut to black. Tifa? The end. All right. Well, that's that. I started this project in May thinking, 2 months, that's enough time. So, I'm sorry it's been so long since I uploaded, but this is why I've been writing a movie. But seriously, thank you so much for sticking around to the end. I hope I could make your day even a little bit better. This is a first for me. I've never done a video like this before, so let me know if you want to see more. Let me know if this is something you dig, more off the cuff, not as scripted for the entirety of it anyway. Or I guess I was reading a script anyway, so I can't escape it. I want to give a huge thank you to all my Twitter followers who every step of the way, whenever I gave updates on this project, y'all were instantly there with such supportive and enthusiastic replies, and knowing that there are people there who are anticipating what you make, it's very encouraging. It definitely gave me some of the steam I needed to finish this video, so thank you so much. If you want updates on upcoming videos, then my Twitter is in the description at xanderscut. Obviously, I didn't read the entirety of this for brevity's sake. I had to synopsize some parts, so if you want to read the entire 97-page screenplay, then you can by becoming a member down below. I'll be adding some perks. I don't know exactly what when making this, but hopefully some behind-the-scenes stuff. I'm not going to pretend like that's worth your money. I'd see it at the end of the day as a donation to the channel, and I'll give whatever perks I can to make it feel worth your while. I think that's everything. Here's one more big thank you your way. You guys are awesome, and I hope you have a fantastic day.